Welcome to Outlaw Librarians, Jailbreaking the Modern Library, a Peoria Public Library podcast, where we bend and break the rules of the old-fashioned library. Listen while we talk about how librarians are breaking the stereotype of boring, stuffy libraries. Welcome to Outlaw Librarian Podcast, Jailbreaking the Modern Library, a Peoria Public Library podcast. Our second podcast is Zap the Grandma Gap, Genealogy for All Ages. Today we're going to talk about genealogy. My name's Amanda. I'm a reference assistant at Peoria Public Library. Today we are talking to Amber. She is known as our kind of genealogy guru here. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
How long have you worked with Peoria Public Library and what have you gone through?
I've been here just over 14 years. I started out in circulation, and then I moved up to reference 5 years ago. So I've been doing genealogy roughly 5 years.
Okay, excellent. What exactly is genealogy? Is it more than just, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa? What exactly are you looking at?
Technically, the genealogy term is the study and the tracing of one's family tree, and it's not always just going straight back. It's not always just learning about those ancestors that you knew, like your grandparents, your great-grandparents, if you're lucky. It's learning back further than usually anybody still living knows.
Okay. Why would someone want to look into their ancestors and their genealogy? Why is it important that we know our background?
There's a number of reasons that people do look into genealogy. Sometimes it's for family health issues. If they're looking historically, that a lot of people had similar issues health-wise, either mental or physical. There's also just learning your family origins. A lot of kids have to answer questions about where they came from, where their families came from. Then there's also just a natural curiosity to find out how your family came to be as they are. So many reasons. More than that exists. Some people just want to search a family story that they've heard for years and want to verify it, and they get kind of caught in the web.
It is easy to be caught in the web of genealogy.
It certainly is.
Why do you think it's become so popular lately? Why the resurgence?
I think over the last couple of years, it's been due to some TV shows like Finding Your Roots or Who Do You Think You Are. I also think Ancestry has really been beefing up their commercials. They're showing them a lot lately. Unfortunately, I think they show it much easier than it actually is. And with the recent drop in prices of things like the DNA tests, a lot of people are getting more into it, wanting to find out what exactly they're made of.
Okay. How did you get into researching your family tree? Was it just because you were working in genealogy, or?
It was kind of that. I was just brand new to reference, and I was being shown the ropes of the various areas. And so they took me down to local history and genealogy at the main location, and were showing me the materials. And I thought I'd be clever and say, oh, well, I know how to use this book. This is where my grandparents are buried. Only to discover not only were my grandparents buried there, but several family members historically were buried there that I was not aware of. So it made me curious. Like I said, natural curiosity is usually one of those things. And I started researching for myself.
Okay. Do you have any really interesting or neat anecdotes in your searches for genealogy of yours or other people you've helped?
Well, working down in local history as much as I do, roughly 20 hours a week, you have lots of stories every week, but one that comes to mind is a couple months ago, this woman and her husband came in and they were researching and they'd kind of gotten stuck where they were. And through talking to me, we tried a couple different resources that they hadn't tried and ended up solving a 20-year mystery for them, finding out where somebody was buried, that the family that came, they were actually from Idaho, but their family historically was from Illinois, and the person they were looking for had died in Arkansas and was transferred back here for burial, but they had no actual proof, and we found a news article stating such. And the woman was so grateful, she said, I know I shouldn't do this, but I have to hug you. And so I was hugged very forcefully for finding this information.
Wow.
So
that's great. What does Peoria Public Library offer for people doing research? What kind of help do we give them in their search?
What we can do is if you're coming into the library, we can assist you with things. We're not going to trace your family tree for you. That's your own.
Yeah.
But we will help you with resources. We'll give you ideas. Maybe if your family's from the Peoria area, there's more in our local history collection rather than our genealogy collection. Maybe we can check to see if they were ever mentioned in one of our resources, or if somebody else has done research that we can point them in the right direction. If you're not local, we can actually do lookups for you. We will do up to 4 lookups per week and send information back to you. So there's a lot of ways that we can help out. Sometimes it's just listening and letting you figure out your story on your own.
Wow. Okay. Tell us about our local history and genealogy department at Peoria Public Library.
Well, the local history and genealogy department is located at the main location. We do not have sections at the other branches. It's actually kind of divided into 2 parts, one side being local history, the other side being genealogy. The genealogy collection is technically owned by PCGS. We just house their collection for them. PCGS is the Peoria Genealogical Society. But we do have 8 sections of shelves for people to read books. We also have over 180 years worth of newspapers that have been collected on microfilm. We have materials that we've collected for the last nearly 100 years in our vertical file. In our annex, which is staff only, we can bring out materials such as old yearbooks, mortuary records, some other collectible things that we've had for over the years. We can bring out and let people look at them.
Okay, so lots of old resources. Excellent. What are some really good sources or tips for those new to researching their genealogy?
The first thing I can suggest is talk to your family. Talk to them, find out any old stories they remember. Talk to the oldest people in your family, even if they're people who have memory issues. Sometimes the story isn't exactly correct, but there's a grain of truth. It gives us a name or a lead, something that we can go forward with. If you're already doing research, the number one recommendation, cite your sources, because years will go by and you won't have that citation, and you'll end up doing your work over again because you don't know if you've actually looked for something. So write it down. Even if you didn't find anything in the resource you're using, write down what you looked for so that 7-8 years from now you go back and you don't know if you looked for. Well, if you write it down, and write down everything that you can. Even if it doesn't seem related at the time, write it down. Make a note. I don't think this is related, but hold on to it.
Yeah, never know.
You may find a connection later, and then you'll be mad that you got rid of it.
Okay. Is there anything new and exciting coming up in the field of genealogy? You mentioned like the DNA testing is starting to be big. Is there anything new exciting you think that's happening?
I think with the DNA stuff, that is the current big thing with genealogy, because it's allowing people to find out what they're made of. Unfortunately, a lot of people get confused about it because what you are culturally is different than what you may be biologically. You may know that your 4 grandparents came from 4 different locations, but when you get your genealogy results, you may come back half one thing and 3/10 another, and it's very confusing to people. So do your research on DNA before you do it, or be willing to do research after, because a lot of people are getting worried. They're saying, well, why did I come back like this? I traced all this. Am I tracing the wrong thing? You're not tracing the wrong thing. But what makes you is not necessarily what you were raised as.
Yes. Okay, last question. What are you currently reading? What is on your nightstand?
I just last night finished The Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, which came out on the weekend. So I just finished that, so I don't have a new book yet.
Was it everything we all hoped it was?
It was a beautiful story, and that is all I can say about it without spoilers.
Good. All right. Thank you for listening to our second podcast about genealogy. We hope you join us next time. Thank you for listening to Outlaw Librarian podcast with Peoria Public Library. Thanks for listening to us here on Outlaw Librarians, Jailbreaking the Modern Library, a Peoria Public Library podcast. We strive to break the rules and laws of the old silent libraries and make them fun and exciting again. We hope you enjoyed listening and learning about the new noisy rules of libraries. You're a daisy! The Show Must Be Go by Kevin MacLeod, Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Website http creativecommons.org/licenses/by/3.0/.